Hi, I'm Beryl, and the theme of today's episode is maple syrup. I have a prop. If you're thinking like,
ooh, pancakes and waffles.
Not exactly. Today we are going to be doing 3 cocktail recipes, a different way to use maple syrup. I'm making this video in partnership with Walmart, so if you want to see other videos like this, you can check out their channel and subscribe there. Before we get into the recipes, I wanted to talk about the history. You know me. So with that, we're gonna grab my notebook. Maple syrup comes from maple trees. Trees like these. They're tapped and the sap is then boiled and produces a thick syrup. But the interesting part is how old this tradition is. Indigenous peoples in both Canada and the US had been harvesting maple syrup long before colonizers arrived. In fact, one of North America's indigenous tribes, the Algonquins, have a name for maple syrup. It's called Sispakwet, which actually means drawn from the wood. And if you're wondering where all the maple syrup comes from, 80% of it actually comes from Canada, and more specifically here in Quebec. In the United States, Vermont and New York are the main producers. Instead of making the cocktails here, we get to go on a little road trip to a kitchen with gas. I'm very excited. Let's go.
Okay, let's make our first drink. We're making a maple ginger hot toddy. The drink is derived from India, where in Hindi, the word toddy actually means fermented palm sap. The most common spices used in the drink were spices that were common on the Indian subcontinent, like star anise, cinnamon, and cloves. As British troops left India and went back to the UK, they actually brought the drink with them. And there, it made its way to Scotland, where Scotch became the alcohol of choice. Okay, so now I'm adding some maple syrup, which is not necessarily part of the, traditional way of making it, but it's fun. The Scotch adds a really smoky flavor. Funnily enough, when the drink made its way to the United States, rum was swapped in for Scotch. Careful. This needs to steep for just like 3 to 4 minutes. We're gonna add a little bit of lemon. I'm just gonna save a small bit of the lemon for garnish, and then squeeze the juice in. Just gonna give it a stir, tea bag coming out, garnish going in. Okay, let's have a taste. Honestly, it's so good. I think that the maple syrup does a really good job of balancing out what could be a strong flavor of Scotch whiskey, and it's super cozy. And that's kind of what we all want in the fall, right? To feel cozy. The next drink that we're gonna make is a maple Manhattan. So the Manhattan came into fashion in the 1880s in Manhattan, in New York. And while the drink is interesting, there's not that much about the creation that I thought was like, ooh, really fun to share. However, Angostura bitters are super interesting. There are supposedly over 40 ingredients in these, and only 5 people know the recipe, and they have made a pact to never eat in the same restaurant or fly on a plane together to keep the recipe safe. The recipe calls for a splash. I'm imagining a splash is this. Ta-da! Yeah, that's a splash. The key to a Manhattan is that you don't shake it, you stir it. It's a rookie mistake if you go to shake a Manhattan. Everyone will know you're not a real bartender. Okay, that looks good. Now we're gonna pour it. It's such a beautiful color. We're gonna garnish this with some cherries. Traditionally, you would have used a maraschino cherry, but we've moved on from that. These are cocktail cherries and they taste way better and they look way nicer. Cheers. It feels like a cocktail that you would get at a bar and pay maybe a little bit too much money for, I'm gonna have a cherry though. These are good. Our final drink is a maple bourbon apple cider. Until recently, apples were not really for eating. They were more for fermenting. They were similar to crab apples. Smaller, sour, nothing that you really wanted to eat as a snack. They made waves when they reached Europe around 55 BC because the Romans had figured out how to ferment them. The British were the ones who actually coined the term cider, and in the 1600s, when they made their way to the Americas, the first thing they started doing was planting rows and rows of apple trees. Are there any other ingredients that you know about that have really interesting histories? Leave a comment and let us know. Maybe you remember the story about Johnny Appleseed. He traveled across America planting all of those trees. Turns out he was doing it to make booze and not to make pies, like I kind of thought as a child. We are going to shake this up now. I feel very professional. Da-na-na-na-na. Honestly, this smells really good. It's definitely an apple juice for adults type of drink. We're gonna make a pretty garnish now. Half of an apple. Ta-da! Okay. A sprig of rosemary, because a pop of color always makes things look nice. And a stick of cinnamon, because it's fall. Pretty. Let's taste it. I could drink a lot of this. It's really good. I like that it's cold. I feel like you always think about apple cider as a hot drink. We need to start thinking about it as a cold drink because this is refreshing. All right, slow down. Those are your 3 cocktails using maple syrup. Maybe you were a little surprised that you can use it for more than just a topping on waffles and pancakes. If you guys know any other amazing recipes that you can use maple syrup in, please leave a comment and let me know. I love learning new ways to use ingredients. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get more recipe videos like this one. Until then, cheers.